As part of the House Energy Action Team, it's important for us to address the Americans tonight, the hardworking American taxpayers that are concerned about their rising energy costs and want to know what is their United States Congress going to do about the issue of energy independence, the cost of fuel, the cost of electricity, and the fact that they've got less money in their wallet after a week of driving back and forth between work and taking the kids to school and ball games and church and all the things that we as average Americans do after they pay for the fuel to do all that, to drive their vehicles to and fro. They reach in their wallet for extra cash and there's none left. What is the United States Congress going to do about the rising cost of energy? And I came to Washington to really focus on three things: jobs, energy, and our founding fathers. Jobs. How about unleashing and unbridling the innovative and entrepreneurial spirit of Americans that will actually turn this economy around by putting Americans to work, lessening the number of Americans on the welfare rolls and actually having Americans earn their way. Jobs. Energy. Energy is a segue to job creation in this country. If you look at the states that are energy-driven, have energy-driven economies like Oklahoma and Texas and Louisiana and, hey, North Dakota. North Dakota, 3% unemployment rate or less. In fact, McDonald's is paying a finder's fee. If you've got somebody that wants to go work at a McDonald's up in North Dakota, they'll pay you. They'll pay you a finder's fee. Jobs, energy. Energy being a segue to job creation, putting Americans to work. And we're not just talking about the men and women wearing the hard hats and the oil uniforms out on the drilling platforms or in the Bakken up in North Dakota, turning those drills and producing that, whether it's through horizontal drilling or hydraulic fracturing or shallow water or deep water offshore. Yeah, those are great jobs, good paying jobs. Those are hardworking American taxpayers. But if you think about all the other jobs that support the offshore industry and the onshore industry, these are Americans that are working, doing pipe fitting and welding, and guess what? Pipes fall on truck beds, and the beds have to be repaired, so they're auto body mechanics and they're engine mechanics, and all these people are going that are working in that industry, whether it's the AC folks that are going out on the rigs to fix the air conditioning or provide the food service or the transportation or the supply vessels carrying the drilling mud and the diesel fuel and everything that it takes to support energy production in this country. Guess what? Those folks are going to their local restaurants and they're eating and they're tithing and they're giving tips to the waitresses. They're going to their churches and they're tithing. They're joining the United Way and they're sponsoring ball teams. They're supporting our local communities. And you see it all up and down the Texas and Louisiana highways. You see it in North Dakota. You see it in Oklahoma. And guess what? We want to see it in South Carolina. In fact, there's some gentlemen here that want to see it off their coast, or may want to see it expanded in their states, whether it's onshore or offshore. They understand that energy production is a segue to putting Americans to work. Jobs, energy, and our founding fathers. Limited government, free markets, individual liberties, unleashing that entrepreneurial spirit that Americans have within us to go and create and do and put Americans to work and pay taxes to the government so the government can do its constitutional role. Jobs, energy, and our founding fathers is a great acronym. It spells Jeff, and I'm all about Jeff. We want to see the Atlantic Outer Continental Shelf opened up. We want to see some seismic work done first. That's the first step. Let's see what's out there. They're looking at 30-year-old seismic graphs, trying to figure out, are there recoverable resources off the coast of South Carolina, North Carolina, Virginia, Georgia, the states that want to see that area opened up. Using 30-year-old technology and 30-year-old graphs, let's see some 21st century technology drug in the Atlantic. 4D and 3D technology, actually see down in the earth and see what sort of resources might be recoverable. Let's allow the seismic work, and let's allow universities like the University of South Carolina, being a Clemson graduate, at Penn, say that the University of South Carolina and Dr. James Knapp are leading the way, teaching the young, new minds to use that seismic technology and look at those graphs and figure out where those resources are. He's doing tremendous work there at the University of South Carolina. Let's open up more areas. It's hard for me to applaud the Obama administration on a whole lot, but I will applaud them on a transboundary hydrocarbon agreement signed by then Secretary Clinton with Mexico that opened up 1.5 million acres in the Gulf of Mexico. Shared resources right under that maritime boundary between the United States and Mexico. And Mexico just denationalized their energy company, Pemex. They're opening up to more private investments. We're going to see great things happen in the transboundary area. But even though she signed that agreement, the administration failed to send to this Congress the implementing language to actually make it happen, to include those areas in the next 5-year plan. That took an act of Congress. That took a bill that passed out of this body last year. And that took efforts like Paul Ryan had in the omnibus to get the transboundary hydrocarbon implementing language in the omnibus so that we could open up that 1.5 million acres. And we could put more men and women here in America, hardworking American taxpayers, to work developing the energy resources that we have in this country. God bless the United States of America, and He continues to bless us with the resources here to be truly American energy independent. Or working with our neighbors to the north with something like the Keystone Pipeline, which should happen to bring that Canadian oil into this country to the refineries where we have idle capacity to put that oil into the marketplace, and gasoline and plastic and asphalt and diesel fuel and all the other butanes and all the other elements that come out of a barrel of hydrocarbons when you put it under pressure, and it separates naturally in all sorts of wonderful God-given elements. The Keystone Pipeline should happen. That's a no-brainer for most Americans that I talk to, but apparently the administration just doesn't get it. They don't get that the Keystone Pipeline will put Americans to work. We're talking about jobs. We're talking about energy. We're talking about less government. Keystone Pipeline and North American energy independence includes working with our neighbors to the south in Mexico as they denationalize their energy industry. More private investment, more American companies going down there and developing those resources so we can possibly have North American energy independence, if not just American energy independence. I'm joined by a number of members of Congress here that are part of the House Energy Action Team, and one gentleman from the neighboring state to my north that understands what I talked about with the Outer Continental Shelf area and that Atlantic, Mid-Atlantic, South Atlantic, OCS area that we believe has resources. If you look at the geology, North Africa, the Middle East, and England, they were all together one time with the United States, and the resources and the geology are very similar, and we believe that in the South. We believe that, I know in South Carolina, that we may have some recoverable resources, and we can be players in that. I know the gentleman from North Carolina, Mr. Hudson, wants to talk, I'm sure, about